welcome back. Happy Friday to Things You Ought to Know podcast. My name is Kelby Finati. I'm your co-host.
And I'm your other co-host, Erica Arnautovic.
And today we're going to have a travel expert in the special needs world. Her name is Kayla. She is Special Kind of Magic is her IG tag. You'll hear in our interview, we're calling her the OG of IG. She has been doing this for I think over a decade is what she had said.
Yeah.
So we're excited to bring her on the podcast and let you hear her tips and tricks. But before we do that, we just like to let everybody know we are a judgment-free platform to be able to bring things that we think the world ought to know about autism. And I know that Erica had a crazy week.
Oh.
So I want to get to know how your week went. And before we dive into our tips and tricks of travel.
You sure you want to know this?
I know.
Woo!
Give me the good, the bad, the ugly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I was too smug apparently last week, guys, when I said that, everybody just take your time when you have time, which is true, but just don't say it out loud. I learned that. Don't say it out loud.
You jinxed yourself.
I jinxed myself because boy, am I paying for the last few weeks of one, my kids being gone with my parents last week and having really a chill week. And two, the week before, I think your week was a little crazy. And my week was it was just one of those non-eventful weeks. Okay, here I go. So first, Monday night, I come home from work to my fridge spewing water.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going to feel like Kevin Hart when I say this, but because he says the way my bank account is set up, he has one of those jokes.
Yeah.
But no, the way the plumbing, I guess, because it's an older home, it's not, we have the spout where you could plug the water into the fridge and just be able to turn the fridge water off.
Okay.
But that's not how ours is wire or plumbed. So the only way to get it to stop spewing was to turn all the water in the house off.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you about that earlier. So you don't have the quick shut off valve because of the way your house is set up.
The way the plumbing was done for this fridge.
Okay.
Yes. So. And so I couldn't just because that wouldn't have been as bad. We could have gotten bottled water to drink and it was fine. But no, the whole water had to be shut off. So we called, and our ice maker's been, not functioning right for a little while. So we just called an appliance company, and they were supposed to come out Tuesday morning. So I made arrangements to be able to be home on Tuesday. Well, it went from bad to worse. So they ended up just not showing up Tuesday. And then when I called them around 9 to make sure that they would be here because the time frame was between 8 and 12, they said that, really, they messed up. The next availability was June 9th. July 9th.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that's almost 2 weeks without water. No. Mm-mm. So, finally last night at 11, my husband, kept looking at it. And finally, I think he at least fix the problem until July 9th.
Okay, go Yanni.
I know. So we have water as of really late last night. So my sink is full of crusty dishes and all the things right now, which, whatever, that's fine. That's the least of our problems. I had a mini meltdown Wednesday night. Let me back up really quick. So the second thing that happened when it went from bad to worse was, the master bathroom toilet. I woke up to standing water in my master bathroom because Zara had tried to go to the bathroom in the morning and there's no water on, so you couldn't flush the toilet. So yeah. I told her not to and then walked away to help Luca with something. And I think she tried to flush the toilet.
Oh my gosh.
So water the next morning was spewing. And I guess all night, just a leak.
Oh.
And yeah, it was awful. we've got to figure something out with this plumbing. So we don't only need an appliance person, we need a plumber at this point as well. Which also magically fixed itself. I don't know if it was just because the water was off and she tried to do it. I don't know what exactly happened, but I woke up to standing water in the toilet
area
of my master bathroom. I think it was Wednesday morning Wednesday or Thursday. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday morning.
Your week's running together.
My week is running together. So on top of that, so we had water. No water. That was one thing. Then on Tuesday, Luca normally goes to ABA therapy, and his PCA, his patient care advocate, who is lovely, picks him up on Tuesday mornings. Her daughter had some type of a procedure done, and so she was not able to get Luca Tuesday morning, and which was fine. I knew about it, and the daycare had planned just to take him. And then his ABA therapist, who were going to go to the daycare, ended up not being able to go to the daycare. One of them was sick and another one had a family emergency. So like all day he was at daycare with no support, which is very rare for Luca. Wow. And so I was doing developmental appointments, and I really cannot leave work at that time. And my husband carries our insurance and has to have so many hours. July, he knows, is going to be slow. So he really could not leave work. It was just kind of like one of those hot mess kind of a days where it's like, what do we do? And the daycare called me at like 10:30 to let me know Luca had gone into a tantrum and had a self-injurious behavior of scratching himself. It has like a big gash under his lip, and was like bleeding down. They sent me a picture just so that they, I could know what it was. They know what I do for a living, and they're wonderful. They did everything they could. And I was like, I can be there at 3. Like, can we hold on until 3? And so the director is lovely, and she just kind of, I think, stepped in and kind of helped mitigate everything. And by the time I picked him up, he was fine. They said it was like a 45-minute deal, and then he, came back to. So all was good on that front afterwards, but, very stressful that whole day at work. I'm thinking like, oh my gosh. And then you're thinking, can he even maintain daycare? Like, do we need to just get out of daycare? Your mind just starts to go in that like negative spiral. Wednesday night, because we were basically doing bird baths like all week, everybody knows what those are, especially when it's 100, like we're in a heat wave and we're sticky and ugh. I just kind of like like the kids were asleep, and I just kind of like sat down in my kitchen against one of my cabinets and just started crying. I was like, I'm just sticky and I need a shower. And I just was so overwhelmed. I just had one of those meltdown moments where I needed to melt down. And so I melted down, and, my husband was like, as easy as it is to turn it right and turn the water off, I can put a bucket, and like you can take it's gotta be a fast shower, but you can do a fast shower, honey. And he was like, I can just turn it left and turn the water back on. We just need a bucket where it's spewing water. And I was like, you can do that? What?
And why haven't you told me this until Wednesday?
Right. Why did I go 2 days with being sticky and froze? And then, sorry, Parker, I woke you up. And so, that just was like, that was my week in a bubble. And then this morning, we had some thought we had scheduled for kiddos, and both of us, I think, had that. We thought we had like one schedule, and we very much did not end up having that schedule. That kind of like fell through last minute for both of us. So thankfully, my lovely niece came and took my son to the park, and I'm going to take him to ABA therapy when we're done here with Kayla. And yeah, I think that was it.
That's what we're good at.
Busy work schedule this week. When normally in summer, we're super, like, we just do physicals a lot. Like, a lot of kids aren't sick. This week was just one of those weeks where it's like I didn't get a minute of reprieve, even when I went to work, to be able to like catch my breath and like, it wasn't that. It was back to back to back patients.
Is there sick? I know I've seen a lot of sickness going around.
Yeah, there's some type of viral URI. There's a tummy bug I'm starting to see again.
I was about to say the GI bug is hit.
Yep. So those two things, and then on top of that, like sports physical after sports physical, and everybody's just trying to get their physicals in before school. So it was just one of those weeks.
Yeah,
I'm thankful it's Friday. We're gonna leave this week in the past.
Yes.
I can't have a second one in a row. Like Mama already had her meltdown. We're good for a while.
My mom always said sometimes you just have to cry. Sometimes girls just need to cry.
Yeah.
And it releases all of that built up tension and all of that. And it's sometimes in the most weird ways, sitting in your kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Or, wherever you decide to cry out for that second. But it's sometimes, and I bet you felt a lot of relief, especially knowing that you could just turn the water back on.
Yeah, I was like, well, because I think what pushed it over, and the reason I sat in the kitchen floor was I am a little OCD about my kitchen. Like, I'm a little like I'm not saying my house is always like clean, but my house is tidy.
Every time I've been here, it's been clean.
Probably because I clean it right before you come. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't let your child crawl around on my dog hair covered floors. But no, I think I just saw I know, Parker, I felt the same, buddy. But I think I just saw like the crusty dishes piled in my sink. And I think that was like the cherry on top. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I just like sank. And I was like, I can't even keep my house clean. Mm-hmm. I'm a failure this week. You just go into that. So like, I can't get my kids because I'm too busy doing this. And you just spiral. So I had to bring myself back to, it's all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And let Yanni be the logic brain for a minute and help you through it.
Yes, honey, turn it left.
Yeah.
Turn left. Zoolander, turn left.
Turn left.
So yeah, that's what we did.
Well, we had a little bit of a chaotic week. It was Porter's afternoon RBT was off. He's on vacation, rightfully so. He's amazing.
Yes,
he deserves to be on vacation.
Yes,
but Parker's in the background.
Hey, buddy.
But that leaves us without care in the afternoon, and so I've been having to get him every day at 12. It throws his schedule off a little bit. It makes him he's a very routine kiddo. So when he's out of routine, and then the week before that we had VBS, so he was out of routine. Then next week the ABA facility closes for a week of vacation for all of their staff. So he's not going to have therapy next week. And then the following week, we're going on our family vacation to the beach. Okay. So he's not going to see his afternoon RBT, which is the person he's been with since the beginning of this year. He won't see him for 3 weeks.
Wow. So that's going to be a whole nother transition starting back up. It's getting him back like.
Exactly.
What do they call it? Paired.
Yeah. Exactly. Which I think is a topic that I keep saying we're going to dive into another topic, but we'll write this one down and definitely dive into it. But as, I'm not working full time and I've had to step down because of these types of things. It's like, we didn't know that I didn't know his RBT wasn't going to be there all week this week until Friday of the previous week.
Yep.
And so, you just have all of these things that, like, you got a call about Luca and needing to go pick him up from a meltdown. It's those types of things that I'm very thankful for my husband that is able to work full time and provides for us. I do consulting on the side. And so, there's some income coming in that way, but it still is like, my main priority is the kiddos. But for parents and especially mothers who have to work full time.
Yeah.
These moments like that is like, makes me think like, I'm so grateful that I'm not in that position where I have to do that right now.
Yes.
Because I can't imagine what it's like for moms to have to do that. But
yeah,
another day, another topic.
Yeah. Like that's like the PTSD, I think, part of the creation of PTSD, at least for me.
Yeah.
Of where it's just like, I'll tell you about it another day, but like we went through a period where I think I was having to either leave work, call in at the last minute. And like, I have a patient schedule.
Yeah.
Very difficult. So yeah, we definitely need to do a working mothers, one. Cause that mom guilt too gets you.
Oh, it'll get you.
For everyone. Doesn't matter, stay at home or not.
Oh yeah.
It gets you. But yeah. So, okay. So you said you're traveling and not next week, but the following week you guys are going to the beach.
Yeah.
So perfect timing for us to have Kayla on.
Yes.
So I want to dive in and welcome her now so we can get some tips and tricks because I want to know them too. We're going to the beach at the end of July, but you need them like in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So let's welcome Kayla on, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
We are excited today to have Kayla on. She is Special Kind of Magic on Instagram. That's how I originally got to know her and all of her expertise and tips and travel insider information. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of give you an overview of who Kayla is. She is a certified autism travel professional, a special education educator, and more importantly, an autism mom. She's part of our autism mom crew. Kayla lives in Orlando, Florida, with her husband, who's also a veteran, 13-year-old son who has ASD, and her 9-year-old son who is neurotypical. Kayla is a dedicated individual with a deep passion for supporting the autism community through her role as a special needs travel agent. Her commitment stems from a desire to create inclusive and accessible travel experiences, ensuring individuals with autism and their families can explore the world comfortably and confidently. Her goal here is to fill your cup with knowledge, resources, hope, and confidence so that you can experience your own special kind of magic.
I love that.
That is awesome.
Thank
So,
you.
well, it's awesome to have you on here. We really appreciate you. Are our first guest.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was like a really good one.
Yeah.
Especially because the time of the year and all of that. So
Yeah, definitely.
June, we wanted to make sure that we could supply our audience with a lot of really good resources and nuggets of information. And so we thought how better to not kick it off with our first guest being a travel expert, especially in the special needs world. So we are excited to have you on. We would like to kind of get to know you a little bit more. Your bio was great. It gave us a really good overview of you, but it pretty much answers how you are and your relation into the autism community. But could you kind of give us a background into your autism journey? Just a brief overview for us.
Yeah, definitely. So, my son Tristan, who will be 14 next week, he is on the spectrum, and I have been traveling with him. Our very first flight was when he was 2. And so we have been traveling for almost 12 years now, and have learned so many resources and accommodation, and have gained so much knowledge just from that personal experience. And so I started sharing that on social media and just kind of realized that I wanted to help other families like mine experience travel and know that it is possible, and give them resources and knowledge so they've, like filled their cup with hope and confidence so they can, feel like they can do it as well. But really, he is truly like the reason why I get to do this every day.
That's awesome.
yeah. I think that's a common theme with us mamas. Like us, like we take care of our babies and we make sure they're settled, and then it's like, okay, how can we support the rest of these mamas, right? Like the mom
Yes.
thing just goes. And so I love that you were so creative in that, because that would have never crossed my mind.
Well, you know what? It didn't cross my mind. I had, so it did in the sense that I was sharing on social media how we were able to do it. And then, an agency reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, did you know that like you could do this, like as your job?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never even thought of that." And I am like a type A person, like give me all the spreadsheets, give me all the guides, give me all the visuals. And so once she kind of reached out to me about that, I just kind of like deep dove into it, and it has just blossomed into this amazing community, because I didn't want my social media just to be about travel. I am in that group of autism moms where 12 years ago, when I started traveling with him, like, first of all, social media was kind of just like picking up. It was mainly Facebook, not really Instagram. And then also, we didn't necessarily have this community that we have now, on social media. And so it was just kind of in that sense at the beginning, it was just like, I just want to meet other moms that are going through what I'm going through. And now I try not to just post about travel on my page because I don't want it to just be about travel. I want to connect with moms, with moms like us that, just I can just understand them and have a conversation with them outside of travel too. You know what I mean? Just having that community is what I love the most about what this has all kind of like started.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool because you're in a very different space, like as far as age wise than we are. So my son is 3 years old, almost 4. He'll be 4 in August, and Kelby's son just turned 5, Porter. So my son is Luca and Porter, and Tristan is your son. But I think that that's really interesting because like you said, social media was just kind of emerging, so it really wasn't like what it is today.
Right.
And so the fact that you were kind of in that generation of moms that you kind of like really, and you were able to start that connection. Whereas like as us as moms kind of coming into this, it's an established thing
Right.
with moms doing this community. So I think it's really cool to meet somebody who kind of was, I'm going to call you like an OG.
I'm an OG for sure.
Right.
OG Autism Mama.
IGOG. Did you start on Instagram or was it?
So with travel, yes.
You did. Okay. So you're an IGOG.
I'm going to start putting that in my bio.
I love that. We will deem you that. So yeah, that's interesting because you've got all this wealth of experience. I like to say you probably, the saying is you walk so that we can run. I'm sure you've crawled through mud so that we can run. It was more than just a walk. You've crawled through mud.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Can you give us a little bit of insight on what that, bringing a 2-year-old, your first flight, what was the experience like for you? For you to walk away and say, like, I need to help other people with this too.
Oh man, so that was rough. So the plane experience in general ended up going fairly well. So the what had happened is that my husband was active duty. He's a Marine, and he was stationed in Virginia at the time, and I was still living in Southern California with our family. And Tristan and I were moving to go see him, and we had a flight, a very long flight from California to Virginia. And that's when Pinterest was like really big. Like it had just blown up and everybody was creating all their boards and everything. And so I was on Pinterest trying to search how to travel with special needs or how to travel with a child with additional needs. And I was just looking for like blog posts, right? Like any kind of tips, knowledge, information that I could get. And nothing was coming up for me. But like sometimes when you're just scrolling, they have those ads or like those sponsored posts. And there was a sponsored post, and it was of like a art graphic or like a canvas or something. And it was like this really cool like ship theme, and it said a ship is safe in a harbor, but that's not what ships were built for. And so that quote literally just kind of like stopped me in my tracks, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, it's gonna be okay. And you just got to push through, because I was genuinely terrified. And that quote has stuck with me the last 12 years, and I use it in my blogs and I use it on my social media and everything, because really it's just a part of who I am now. So anyways, that just kind of like directed my path of just getting on the airplane with him. And I was able to Google some tips that were, talking about like bring their favorite snacks, or if they like electronics, bring their iPad, which he absolutely loved his iPad. And at that time too, I was learning sign language and teaching him sign language because I genuinely was like, he's nonverbal. Like, he was not speaking at all. And I really thought, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And so at that time I was learning sign language, so I was nervous that I wasn't going to be able to, communicate the way I had wanted on the flight with him. And so I Googled some tips, and mainly it was just bring safe foods, bring electronics, not have him sit by the aisle, because, going up and down the aisle is all of the workers and people passing by to go to the bathroom. So that creates, a stimulus that can be avoided. So have him sit next to the window instead. Also, if he was an eloper, then I could make sure that he was by the window and I was blocking the aisle, so then I didn't have to worry about him trying to leave his seat. And so just little tips like that really helped us get through that flight. And yeah, and then just being able to share that with others. It was intense though. Like, the leading up to it was intense. I was terrified.
Yeah, I
I believe that.
I can only imagine.
I think that it's really interesting too. So you said like that quote, which I love, and it's so fitting for your family with your husband being a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for his service, first of all.
Oh, thank you for your support.
Yes, always. But I find it really interesting. So I'm like a really big believer in, kids in general. So with me being a pediatric provider, kids in general are kind of like animals in that way, where it's like they pick up on our energy, right?
Yeah.
So terrified going into it and reading that quote, which sounds like it was exactly what you needed, where it was just like your mindset and gave you that energy where it was like, look, we got to do this. There's no turning back. We got to go see dad.
Yeah.
And so we got to do this. So how are we going to do this? So it's shifted from like, this is a problem to we can find a solution.
Right. Absolutely.
Stuck with you through your whole journey to now what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I use it in my blogs. I've used it on my social media. Whenever I have consultation calls with families, I always say that to them, because, one of the number one things that they say is, I'm so scared. And I get it. I've been there. I am there. I still get scared just because I have all this valuable knowledge and everything for everyone else doesn't mean that I don't get scared still myself. But I hope that, the knowledge and the resources and accommodations help people feel more confident to do it.
So, yeah. So honestly, I like have been out of the social media world until the last few months for like almost a decade now. I just like stepped away from it. Even before having kids, it was just one of those things that it was like, it just was taking up all of my, like, I was a scroller.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I have to make a habit change here. And so I got away from it. And then with what I do, sometimes that can be a little bit, being in medicine, sometimes that can like, be really careful what you post, especially being in pediatrics.
Right.
I just kind of got away from it for that reason. So I really wasn't aware entering this journey, all of the community that's out there and all of the creative avenues that it's like, I wish I almost, so last summer we went to visit my husband's parents in Bosnia, and
Wow.
long flight.
Yeah. Girl.
It was an 8-hour flight from Charlotte, where we live very close to Charlotte, and to Germany. And then we had to get on another very small plane from there to Croatia, where they picked us up. And it was an overnight flight. We left at like 6:37. My son was going through like a sleep regression at that point. And I had not figured out all of the tricks that I think I have. I knock on wood because we have a but
You're gonna regret saying that.
You'll laugh at you. But we had a rough night last night. So like every now and then we still get one. But I have more tips and tricks now on that. But regardless, I had none of them at that point. I had not figured anything out. And I sat in the bathroom for 6 of the 8 hours with him as he screamed. A German lady yelled at me. And I just went and sat. The stewardess were so kind. They were bringing me coffee in the bathroom like every hour. They would just come and like knock on the door and check on me. But it was awful. I just cried.
Yeah, I bet.
You know? And so, and like nobody had any, I feel like, I mean, I don't know if it was because most of them were probably European. I'm going to blame it on that. And German at that. So, but like nobody had any compassion or asked, like other than the stewardess, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he okay? Can we do anything to help? Like,
Right.
nobody.
And to that too, and especially with it being in Europe, that if you guys haven't heard about it, there is this sunflower lanyard hidden disability card that you can, have your son wear when you're going through an airport, or even if you're going to an amusement park or something like that. But that sunflower hidden disability lanyard actually started in Europe and at their airports and everything. It started in the UK, I believe. And that was to help not only staff, but also members of society know that that person wearing that lanyard was traveling with a hidden disability. And so they might need extra assistance, they might need compassion. Um, and so I'm surprised, I mean, obviously you probably didn't have that, but I'm surprised that just those people in general didn't put, I guess we give people too much credit sometimes when we say, put two and two together. But I mean, if anyone is traveling soon and going over there, make sure to use that hidden disability lanyard, because I feel like in our instances, that definitely helps. Because I feel like because of social media, especially now with how big it is, that more and more people are now seeing that representation and then connecting the dots when they're, at the airport or out in public.
Yeah.
Can you give our listeners some guidance on how to get access to that lanyard? How do they apply for it? How long does it usually take to get the information sent to you?
Yeah, sure. So
Have it coming up, they can go ahead and get that going.
Yeah. So they can go to, I believe it's hdsunflower.com, and you can order one, but you can actually call your local airport because some of the airports right now, I know it's a goal of the Hidden Disability Sunflower Company to make sure that all airports are trained. But right now, if you go to their website, they actually have a list of all the airports that they've currently trained and that they've given lanyards to their customer services. So if you call your local airport, just call the customer service and see if they're giving out those hidden disability lanyards for free. And then if not, then that means they probably haven't been trained yet. And then you can go onto the website and order it, and it's not expensive.
Yeah. We're not planning on necessarily flying anywhere in the near future, but you had said outside of airports, there's other places that it has benefits, like amusement parks. Are they?
Yeah, well, because of social media, so the amusement parks and stuff are not necessarily getting trained on it. There are amusement parks that are advanced certified autism centers or have like an advanced certified autism center within its own theme park where they have like a sensory room or something. And so usually those kinds of theme parks, if you're wearing that hidden disability lanyard, they know what that stands for and they know what that means. But again, because of social media and promoting and reels and all of that, I really feel like the hidden disability lanyards are giving an advantage to people when they're going out into public now.
That's really good to know. We are planning a possible Disney trip in the next few months. So
awesome.
we'll go ahead and I'll be one of the ones to put it out there. And then for the listeners, for today's episode, I will link that, the website that you just mentioned. You said
hdsunflower.com.
Mm-hmm. I'll link that in our notes as well, so you can have quick access to that, whoever wants to apply for it.
Perfect.
That's really good. I mean, we're already getting so many nuggets of information. So
yeah, good. I'm glad.
Awesome.
And if you need help with your Disney trip, let me know.
I will.
That's my jam.
Run into you if you're there. We can link up.
Yeah, that would be so fun.
I was going to say, do you offer the service of coming with?
Yeah, can you be our personal guide?
So it's so funny because I have families all the time. The families that I plan for, they're always like, okay, but can we also schedule a dining reservation for you to meet us so we can take you out to dinner? And it's the sweetest thing ever. And it genuinely is one of my favorite things to meet you guys in the park. So if you do that, then we'll just have to schedule a time for me to come down. I'm only about 45 minutes away. I'm there just about every week. So, so yeah, we will definitely do that, and I'll be your tour guide for a little while.
We would love that. We would love that.
Okay, on the topic of Disney,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, like, tell me what your relationship with Disney is. Just give me the rundown.
Okay. So, for starters, straight out of high school, I was a cast member at Disneyland for a really long time. And then from there, my husband went active duty. So, we were moving all over the place. And then he was no longer active. And he said, I want to apply for states or for jobs out of state. We were back living in California. And I was like, okay. And he was like, give me your top 3 states. And I was like, okay, Colorado, Texas, and Florida. He was like, Florida? I'm like, yeah, Disney World. And so, so he applied and he got the job. And 5 years ago, we moved to Orlando, not knowing absolutely anyone or anything. We have no family here. And so, yeah, so I'm about 45 minutes away from the Walt Disney World parks. We're pass holders. We're there just about every other week. And although I help families plan travel all over the world, Disney just seems to be the number one thing that I happen to help families plan for because I'm there all the time. We also cruise. We're a Disney Cruise Line hardcore people. We cruise about 2 to 3 times a year. We're actually gearing up for a Halloween cruise in September. And so, yeah, so I share lots and lots and lots and lots of Disney on my page. The number one question I always get asked is, do you only book Disney? But it just so happens to be the number one thing that I share because it's a huge part of who I am, for sure.
Okay, but I'm not going to let you skate over. We're not going to let you skate over. You were a cast member.
Yes, I was at Disneyland.
Is there a rule where you can't tell us which cast member you were, like, ever? Or do you get in there? Is it like while you are the cast member, you can't tell us who you are, but now can you?
Do you think I was a character?
I think you've got the appeal to be a character. Maybe a princess or
Oh. Well, I'm extremely flattered, but I was not.
okay.
Yeah. So I actually started off in California Adventure in Flick's Fun Fair, which was their A Bug's Life portion of the park, which is no longer there. They turned it into Avengers Campus. But I was there for a really long time. And then I moved over to the Pixar Pier, which is now, or well, it was Paradise Pier, and did parades and stuff there. And then they switched me over to entertainment, and I did Fantasmic over at the Disneyland park. So, but I was not a character. But I'm extremely flattered. Thank you. Who would I be? I don't even know who I would be.
I could see, like, for real, one of the Disney princesses.
Yeah, you've got
Oh, wow. Thank you.
the princess appeal. I don't know how to explain it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I don't think they would have enjoyed my tattoos, but
Oh, I didn't think about that part of it. That's interesting.
I'm sure there's princesses that wear long sleeves.
yes. Oh, yes, there are. In this Florida heat, I could never.
Oh yeah, no, God. Especially when my son is obsessed with Buzz Lightyear and just Toy Story in general. So when we went for his 3rd birthday, we took him to Disney and we did, which I want to get your tips and tricks on too. We did the check-in at the customer service, their special needs program. We got access to, I'm not an expert in this, so I'm going to let you explain it. But basically we got different assistants with him being on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped our experience a ton.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that to say Buzz Lightyear, we were trying to find him everywhere around the park, and it was the hottest time of the day. And then we're standing in line trying to meet Buzz. And then I'm standing there and I'm like, I'm complaining about sweating. I was also pregnant at the time, but I'm complaining of sweating. And this is, and Buzz is in this full on suit. And
Yep.
he is, I can imagine how hot he is.
Yeah, well, and we took our daughter right before her kindergarten year that summer. We took her in August, just her. My parents kept the baby. Luca was a baby at that time. Well, I mean, he was like not quite 2. And so we just wanted to it was like a 4-day trip with just her. Because we hadn't taken her to Disney yet. And that was like her get ready for school trip. And oh my gosh, I don't think being from not Florida, the heat, we didn't that didn't cross our mind.
I know.
What is the best month in your opinion, especially with special needs? Because extreme temperatures sometimes can be sensory overload, and we can't stop it from being cold or hot.
Right.
So what would be your top month for families down there?
Definitely February or March. March specifically. So February after all the Run Disney races, and then March before spring break starts. That's our sweet spot time because of the weather. The Disney pools are still heated, so you can still go swimming if you want to, but that's definitely where we're not necessarily having the rainstorms every month. If anything, we're not having them at all during that time. It's very rare. And then the heat is not usually an issue at all during that time.
So February.
Yeah.
We're planning on going, so I'll tell you about it. But
Okay.
for February.
No way Luca could have done this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
a lot.
to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying with the assistance program, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
Yeah.
And what the parent's perspective is trying to get access to it. And then it was a little confusing because they don't give you have to read, from my perspective, you had to read the internet, try to Google all of the information. But if we have you as services, is that a service that you provide for families to help guide them through that process? And then if so, what does that process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to first start off by saying that they recently just switched up the way that they're handling the process for getting the Disability Access Service, or what people like to call it DOS or DAS. Because Disney had stated that because of social media, the Disability Access Service pass, the service of it has tripled within the last 5 years. And so they were very concerned about it being abused, an abused system, definitely, because when you would, ask for it or request it, they would just say, okay, why can't your child wait in line for an extended period of time, or adult? And you would simply just state your diagnosis, and they would be like, okay, say no more, let's go ahead and get you situated. But now they recently switched it last month. I think it was April or May. And so now they're only doing the pre-arrival chat for Walt Disney World. Disneyland's a little bit different. You can do a pre-arrival chat up to 30 days before your arrival, or you can do a live chat through the app while you're here at Walt Disney World once you get here. But I don't recommend doing that. I definitely recommend doing the pre-arrival chat 30 days before you get here. That way you can make sure that you're approved and you can go ahead and get situated. Now, with the new process, what they're doing is they're not asking you for a diagnosis, because technically they cannot ask you that. But what they are asking for is they're asking you reasons why your child cannot wait in line for an extended period of time, and the obstacles that you have with them if they were to have a meltdown. What happens to them if they get overstimulated? What happens to them if they have a meltdown in line? Because they have different accommodations now, and so they want to make sure that they're giving you the correct accommodation depending on the severity of the obstacles that you might encounter when you're in line. So that is something that they are doing to hopefully kind of crack down on the people who are abusing the system, and then making sure that the people like us who really need that accommodation are getting taken very well care of. And so what you can do for Walt Disney World, like I said, is you can do that pre-arrival chat up to 30 days before you arrive, or you can do it when you get here. Again, do not recommend that. They'll walk you through that process. And then if you get approved, they'll take a picture of the child needing the assistance. Now, before you could have up to 6 guests on the DOS pass, essentially. But now it's up to 4 guests. It's the person needing the DOS as well as 3 extra people in your party. I have heard of instances where it's like a parent that has multiple children, more than just 2, where they're obviously making exceptions so they can keep the whole family together. But basically what they're doing is they're trying to make it to where, extended family or friends are not utilizing that system, with them to kind of crack down on that. But basically what it is it is a special pass for you to get through the line quicker than the standby. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't wait. You pick a return time for the ride, so you're waiting somewhere else or doing something else, and then it'll let you know when you can come back to the line. And then you will go through what's called the lightning lane. And so basically you go through that line, which is significantly a shorter wait time than the standby line. And so that is how they are helping accommodate guests who cannot wait in that super long standby line.
Something I learned with that was 2 things. One was part of the line is they have it as part of their protocol. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kayla, but you can't go put your name on several different line wait lists.
Right.
It works just kind of like a fast pass would. I don't know if that's the correct term for it, but if we're waiting in line for the Slinky Dog, roller coaster, then our name could only be on one list at a time.
Right.
Yeah. And so, okay, so it still is like that.
Yes. So before, well, I don't even want to talk about before because then it'll confuse people. But now it's just one at a time. So you schedule the ride you want to go on. And then as soon as you scan through for that ride, you wait 10 minutes. There's like a timer almost on your My Disney Experience app. And you have to wait 10 minutes and then you can go into the app and select your next disability access service. So it's one at a time essentially. But a lot of people like to purchase it's called Genie Plus now, and Disney just dropped a huge ball on us that they're changing the whole system. I was up in arms the other day because I was like, I just updated my guide. But it's Genie Plus, and now they're changing it to Lightning Lane Multi Pass. And so basically that is a paid service to help you get through the lines quicker. And so a lot of families who feel like they're going to be utilizing the rides and the attractions and experience with the disability access service, they like to purchase that Genie Plus, or now the new option of Genie Plus, to like maximize their time if they want to do lots of stuff.
So with that, you could, for instance, I know a big one is the Hagrid roller coaster that usually has a long wait time list, I think.
So that's at Universal Studios.
That's at Universal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in that situation, or in another situation within the Magic Kingdom, you could essentially use the Genie Plus and go put your name on one, and then still be able to utilize your special needs access for another.
Yes. Okay. And with the new system for Genie Plus, the Lightning Lane Multi Pass, is that you're going to be able to have 3 at a time. And then on top of that, have your disability access service.
Okay. And does the price change given the time of the year? Or do you have like a general price that you could give our listeners of kind of what to expect that Genie Plus is?
Yeah,
sure I don't confuse anybody.
Yeah, so the Genie Plus, I'm not entirely sure what they're going to have the price point be for this new Lightning Lane Multipass, which starts July 24th. But Genie Plus right now, you can expect it to be about $25 a person per day. But
Okay.
I was there in March during the spring break time, and it was like $38 a person per day. So it genuinely just depends on the season that you're going.
Okay. And then the second thing that I learned too was they had some type of internal protocol related to strollers. They don't allow them to go through the lines,
Mm-hmm.
but because Porter had trouble waiting in line, he it was part of his need was to be able to have a stroller. They allowed us to have the stroller while waiting.
Yes.
So
So
that's then too that I think other listeners might want to know that
yeah.
you can ask.
Yeah, of course. So I did a blog post on this too. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can go to specialkindofmagic.com. But I did a whole blog post on the red stroller tag is essentially what it's called. This is not something that you can do on the disability access service call, that pre-arrival chat. This is something that you have to do when you get to the parks. And you can go to guest relations as soon as you get into the park and just let them know that you're essentially using your stroller as either medical device or a safety device, and then they will go ahead and make that decision to whether you're approved or denied. Obviously, that's honestly up to Disney. But if you do get approved, then they will give you a red stroller tag to put on your stroller, and then that will allow you to take your stroller into attraction queues and lines. That way you can make sure that your child is safe inside of their stroller. Another like side topic for that is I get a lot of families that come to me that have the Wonderfold wagons. And on the Disney website, Disney is pretty strict about no wagons being going into the parks. And that one's a little bit more tricky, but it is worth going to guest services and letting them know why you need to use the Wonderfold, especially if you're using it as a medical device for your child or for safety. And I have had families get approved for that as well. So that one is a little bit more tricky, but I don't want people to think that it is completely off the table. It's definitely worth trying still, especially if you're driving.
Yeah, that's a really good tip because I didn't even think about the Wonderful. We're looking at purchasing one now that we have two kiddos.
Mhm.
And so that's a really good tip. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What is your experience? Do most people with at least the strollers, I know you said the wagons can be a little trickier, but with the strollers, like Disney typically, especially if you already have the DAS, they don't typically, say no to the strollers, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I will say that most of the time my clients get approved for that. I haven't seen that being an issue as long as you're just giving them reasons why it's a necessity. Um, I really feel like I know, a lot of people always ask me, what are your favorite autism friendly locations? And although Disney is not a certified autism location, it really is my favorite because I feel like their accommodations and the Disney difference that they give with their customer service is just much.
I agree with that. I haven't experienced a lot of other places, but the experience that I did have it was great. Because we do have a pediatric provider here, I'm curious when it comes to those like medical, they can't ask you because of HIPAA, those types of things. But have you ever recommended to parents to have it kind of in their back pocket just in case for their pediatric provider to write some type of letter of medical need for a stroller? And then to Erica, have you ever had that requested from any parent?
I've never had that requested from me. I don't think
Um,
that I can think of.
I have had parents have their doctors write a note just in case, but it's never been needed to be used or talked about. Disney's pretty strict about, I don't need a diagnosis, I don't need documentation or anything like that. So I don't even know if they would physically like take something from somebody if they were talking to them in person. But I have had clients just have stuff drafted up just for their peace of mind, as that actual added step, but they've never had to like utilize it.
So yeah, that's really good to know. One piece that just like went to like into my brain though, as we were talking about this was, so I know like most of the time, like theme parks and things, because we live right on the border of North and South Carolina, which is where Carowinds is. So Spirit pass holders to Carowinds,
Yeah.
which is, a much smaller scale to Disney, of course, like nothing compares to Disney. But sometimes like, they don't like you to bring your own food or your own drinks. And I can't remember exactly with Disney, just because we didn't have Luca. We had just, Zara was, fine to go in. But what does that, because like Luca, for example, will only drink out of a certain water bottle. Like I could give him an actual water bottle, plastic water bottle all day, and he is not going to, like, he's going to spit the water back out.
Right. So one of the best things that I love about Disney is that you can bring your own food and you can bring your own drinks inside of the parks. As long as it doesn't need to like be heated up with a microwave or something like that, you're good to bring it in. And, obviously no glass, you can't have loose ice. So I always tell my clients to make sure that they pack, like ice packs if they have to have something cold in there. But you can bring in your own safe foods if you need to. And we do it with Tristan all the time. And I think it's also awesome to bring up that they have really great options as well. Like if your child has a gluten allergy or something. I have a client who recently went to Walt Disney World. They visited all 4 parks. And her daughter was on the spectrum. She had a gluten allergy and she only would eat gluten-free chicken nuggets. And so I created a whole guide for her of all the different locations around the Walt Disney World parks that had gluten-free chicken nuggets. So that way, when she went into the Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom, wherever she was at, she could look at that guide and she could mobile order the gluten-free nuggets from every location that I told her that she could go to. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing that they have, options. I have a client right now who's looking to go to Walt Disney World, and her child has ARFID. And so she is actually going to book a Disney villa that has a kitchen. That way she can make sure that she's able to cook her child's safe foods, and their foods for them. So she doesn't have to worry about anything in the parks. So there's definitely, we all have our obstacles, and I think food is a huge one when going on vacation. And it's honestly one of my favorite things to tackle when people come to me with those obstacles. I'm like, yeah, we could do this.
That is awesome to go above and beyond for your clients like that and provide them a guide. Already the locations, I'm a gluten-free mama. My son is gluten-free. So I will definitely be requiring your services for that.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge tip to know. That I didn't even think about food. I mean, I did when we took Porter because he has safe foods. And so, again, I had to navigate the internet world and dive into research and figure out what it is. And so it's great that that's a service that you provide. I do want to kind of like wrap it up with your services. If you could kind of highlight what you offer for your clients. I know you have a great specialization in Orlando, but like you said earlier, it's not the only thing that you do. So you kind of give us an overview of all that you do, and then we'll wrap it up with our last segment of the podcast is something that you think the world ought to know about autism and now autism related to travel. So we'll ask you that too. But if you could kind of just give us an overview of services for our listeners, and then also how can they reach out to you. And then for who is listening, we'll link all of your information in our social media and in our podcast episode notes as well, so they can have quick access to you.
That's awesome. Thank you. So from the very beginning, I have clients reach out, and depending on their form of communication that they prefer, I know that us autism parents especially are very, very busy. So most just like to communicate through email. But first I qualify them for the location that they want to go to. So unless they absolutely know, like you absolutely know that you want to go to Disney, then that's perfect. But for a family who comes to me and they're kind of like, hey, we just want to go on a vacation, help us figure out what is the best destination for us, I go ahead and qualify them for that, and making sure that the destination that we're picking for them checks off all the boxes. I help families plan travel from road trips to Europe, whatever they would like to do. Like I said, everyone just happens to come to me for Disney, but I do have families that I plan road trips for that stop at little certified autism aquariums or zoos or something along the way, or, stay at certified autism resorts and hotels. And so basically, I help them figure out the destination that they want to go to. I help them pick the right resort for them or hotel for them, because we all know that those are not created equally. I help them with any food aversions that they might have. Like I said, I provide guides to pretty much everything. I take care of their transportation to and from the airport, or if they're driving, make sure that they know about, parking fees and stuff like that along the way, or when they get to their resort. I take care of any dining reservations that they might, need while they're at their destination, and making sure that the restaurant that they want to attend has your child safe foods, or foods that that your child can eat. I send lots of menus over to people. And I basically just help with like all the one-on-one planning. I could go on and on for days about all of the services that I provide for my clients. I think being an autism mom myself, I just know exactly what you're nervous about, because I'm nervous about it too. And so I treat every trip like it's my own. So, my services include all sorts of things. But the biggest thing that I'm known for is that I provide all of my clients with those guides that I talked about for different obstacles that you might have. But the other big thing is that I actually provide my clients with visual guides. So I have visual guides to different destinations around the country. I have social stories, I have storyboards, and I also provide PECs for AAC communication devices, depending on the location that you're going to. So you can still feel like you're confidently communicating with your child, and your child is able to communicate with you with their AAC device, at the destination that you're going to, about the things that you're experiencing at your destination. And so that is the biggest thing that I provide for my clients that is complementary with my services. And I just love being able to do that. So if anyone is interested in a vacation, or maybe you just need to chat and kind of gain some confidence and hope to even get into the headspace of thinking you want to travel, you can find me on Instagram at Special Kind of Magic, or you can check out my website, specialkindofmagic.com, and there's options there for you to subscribe to my newsletter, which I've been told is very funny. I don't think I'm funny, but I've heard it's hilarious, and so I'm glad people think my newsletter is funny. I reference a lot of millennial rappers and stuff. Like I had Snoop Dogg and Pharrell in my newsletter a few days ago, and so everyone thinks that's
funny.
yeah, everyone thinks that's so fun. So subscribe to my newsletter, and then there's an option, obviously, if you want to email me, and my phone number is on there as well. I'm always available to chat. So.
Well, I think I can say confidently you just gained at least 2 new.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think I will travel without you. And again, I may require request your services to just come with me.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I've had people ask that before for sure. A friend of mine who's a travel agent, she's my best friend, Janelle. She actually just went to Walt Disney World with a really good family friend of theirs, and they actually hired her to go with them and like book all of their Genie Pluses for them and watch the kids while they went on the big rides. And she literally got to go be their guide for the day. And I was like, I need to be doing that. That is so fun. I would totally do that.
New branch of services that you can offer.
Yeah, that would
We'll
be so
sell it with you.
Well, we'll go ahead and just wrap up with asking you what is something that you think the world ought to know about autism and travel. If you can give your insight to us.
And can I ask it in two folds?
Yeah.
I'm going to surprise you.
Okay.
And you. I could talk to you all day, I think.
I know, me too.
I think we're going to have you back on again if you're willing, because
Yes.
this is like, I'm like in love with this already. So
Thank you.
ask you in two folds. One, what do you think the world ought to know about special needs travel? But also, can you give a down and dirty, quick 3 tips that you feel like are the most important things that parents can do to help prepare themselves for what may come?
Yeah. So something that I think the world ought to know is that 93% of autism families say that they would travel more if there were resources and accommodations available to them. And to add to that, I think it's so important for us to expose our children to the world, but for also, for us to expose the world to our children, because in that sense is how we gain inclusion. And in that sense is when we're taking our children out to these brands, out to these businesses and these destinations, is how they're going to learn about families like ours and how they're going to learn how they can accommodate us and what resources they can give us. And if we're not branching out and doing that, then we're never giving them the opportunity to learn as well. So it kind of goes both ways. And the biggest thing for 3 tips is, 1, use a travel agent that specializes in this. I know it sounds cliche, but this is my job. It's not a hobby. And I treat every trip like it is, like it's my own. And whether you decide to work with me or you have a friend that does, specializes in autism travel, you want to utilize a resource with all of this knowledge. You want to make sure that you are researching the resources and accommodations for flying. That is a huge one. Some families don't want to fly yet, and that's totally okay, but you need to be prepared for when the time comes. I actually just did a whole reel series on my Instagram of different tips and tricks for flying with autism. And then the other thing is to research different locations that are autism friendly. You might have this expectation in your head about going to a destination that I will probably tell you is not a good idea, unless I can give you tips and resources that I feel confidently that will help you maximize your experience. But, some people, they have this expectation of wanting to go to this place. And then we kind of have that phone call and we chat out all of their obstacles. And then it ends up not being a really good fit, So I think the biggest tip also is to have a realistic expectation, not only about your destination, but also about the obstacles that you're going to face. Just because you are in this magical bubble of being on vacation does not mean that your child's not going to have a meltdown, does not mean that your child is going to get overstimulated, does not mean that your child might not try to elope. You can do all the tips and tricks of the trade and everything, and you are still, that is your child and you know them best. And so just to go into it with realistic expectations and then have those tips and tricks on the back burner to help you out when you come to that obstacle, that's going to be like your biggest best bet.
All really good tips and information.
Yeah.
And I loved your, we think the same way, like exposing our children to the world and therefore the world being exposed to our children. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on the Things You Ought to Know podcast. We, like Erica said, we'd love to have you back one time or several times because I feel like
Yes,
there's different avenues
I
that we
would love to.
um,
Yeah, the next one we definitely got to talk about beaches because that
yeah.
is my other favorite location.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, then
And I
maybe
already
sooner
have
than later
questions.
again. I know. Today.
We'll just do a travel chat every week.
That's
awesome.
right. Well, we just appreciate you, and you are now. We're volunteering you are our friend now.
Well, thank you. I love it. I need that. You guys are so lucky that you're coming into like the autism community at its prime, where you get to meet other moms through social media and stuff. You know, like I said, when I was coming on, it wasn't like this. And so to be able to instantly connect with people because we genuinely share like this universal language in the special needs world, it like automatically connects you. And that's what makes it so special. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Thanks for paving the way for us.
Yeah, trudging through that mud.
I'm TOG. I'm doing it.
All right, we'll give you some time back. Thanks again, and for everyone listening, we'll go ahead and link all of Kayla's information, and we're excited to have her back on in the near future so we can learn about beaches and travel.
And if you guys have any additional questions, or like she said, we're going to talk about beaches next time, but if you have any more questions, then like let us know so that we can ask her the questions next time.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thanks, Kayla. Have a good rest of your day. And we'll
Thank you. Thanks
talk
so much, ladies.